Stop scrolling, because Manchester United's transfer window has just become a lot more interesting. Marcus Rashford staying, Joshua Zirkzee leaving, a fresh Lewis Hall twist. Today's updates could completely change Carrick's plans for the new season. And there's even more happening behind the scenes. This is RedBreak. Let's break it all down. Let's start with the biggest story, Marcus Rashford. Just a few weeks ago, almost every conversation was about where he'd end up. Every report linked him with a new club. Fans had already started saying goodbye, but football changes fast. According to Fabrizio Romano, the feeling inside Manchester United has shifted dramatically. The expectation now is that Rashford will stay and fight for his place under Michael Carrick. That doesn't mean he's guaranteed to remain, not yet. Transfer windows are unpredictable. One big offer can change everything overnight. But as things stand today, the club believe Rashford is more likely to stay than leave. And that's a huge statement, because this isn't coming from random rumours. This is coming from one of the most reliable voices in football transfers. Even more interesting, Rashford is expected to be part of Manchester United's training camp in Maynooth next week, which means his first game back could be against AC Milan. Now, that might sound like just another pre-season fixture, but it's much bigger than that. Why? Because AC Milan are managed by Ruben Amorim. The very manager many supporters believe marked the beginning of Rashford's difficult period at United. Imagine the headlines if Rashford scores in that match. Imagine the reaction online. Suddenly, one pre-season game becomes one of the most watched fixtures of United's summer. Now, here's where opinions start to split. Some fans believe Rashford deserves one last opportunity. They point to his quality, his pace, his ability to change games when confident. Others completely disagree. They think United should have accepted an offer weeks ago. For them, the club needs a fresh start. No more second chances, no more waiting. And that's exactly why this story has become so fascinating, because there isn't a clear answer. Carrick now has one of the biggest decisions of his early United career. Can he unlock the Rashford everyone remembers, or has that chapter already ended? Only the next few weeks will tell.
But here's something many supporters haven't really considered. If Rashford stays, it changes Manchester United's transfer strategy. Think about it. Keeping Rashford means another attacking option already inside the squad. That could reduce the urgency to spend huge money on another forward. It could also influence what happens with Joshua Zirkzee, and that's where today's next update comes in. Because Juventus aren't waiting around, they're making their move. Fresh reports suggest the Italian giants are pushing hard to bring Zirkzee back to Serie A. Talks with his representatives are ongoing. Discussions with Manchester United are continuing. And perhaps the biggest development, United are open to the idea of a loan. That changes everything. Earlier this summer, many expected United to insist on a permanent sale. Now, a loan deal is firmly being discussed. Of course, United would still prefer a structure that protects the club financially. That could mean a loan with an obligation to buy, or certain conditions that make the move permanent later. Negotiations are still ongoing, nothing is signed, but the fact United are willing to discuss different options tells you one thing. Carrick already has a clear picture of the squad he wants, and he's prepared to make difficult decisions to get there. Now, let's be honest, Zirkzee's time at United hasn't gone the way many imagined. Expectations were high. Fans hoped he'd become a major part of the attack. Instead, consistency proved difficult. Confidence seemed to disappear, and minutes became harder to find. Sometimes a fresh environment is exactly what a player needs. Juventus believe they can offer that opportunity. The question is, can both clubs agree on the right deal? Because this negotiation is far from over. And what happens next could have a direct impact on United's final weeks of business. Now let's switch to another position, because while everyone is watching the forwards, Manchester United are quietly working on the defence. And one name just refuses to disappear: Lewis Hall. Every few days, his name comes back into the conversation. That's not a coincidence. It's because United genuinely admire the player.
Carrick wants defenders who can do more than just defend. He wants players who are comfortable on the ball, players who can carry possession, players who can attack 1 minute and recover the next. Lewis Hall ticks those boxes. He's young, Premier League proven, technically excellent, and he still has room to improve. Sounds like the perfect signing, right? Well, there's one massive problem. Newcastle have absolutely no intention of making this easy. Fresh reports suggest the Magpies still see Hall as an important part of their future. They're not actively trying to sell him. In fact, the message coming from Newcastle is simple. If you really want him, pay a premium. And that premium is huge, around £60 million. That's a serious amount of money, especially when United still have several areas they want to strengthen. So now the pressure shifts to the recruitment team. Do they push ahead anyway, or do they move on to another target? That's the decision happening behind closed doors. And here's what's interesting. This feels very different from previous transfer windows. Old United might have panicked, paid whatever was demanded, and celebrated the signing later. This United appear much calmer, much more patient. If Newcastle refused to negotiate, United could simply walk away. That alone shows how much the club's transfer strategy has changed. But don't rule this deal out just yet. Transfer windows are unpredictable. One signing at Newcastle, one unexpected opportunity, or one change in negotiations, and everything can change within hours. That's why Hall remains a player worth watching until deadline day. Now, while everyone is focused on arrivals, Manchester United are also making progress with departures, because clearing the squad is just as important as signing new players. And one deal is now virtually complete: Altay Bayındır. The Turkish goalkeeper is expected to leave Old Trafford after an agreement was reached for him to join Celta Vigo. For Bayındır, it makes sense. He wants regular football. He knows sitting behind Andre Onana isn't helping his career, and United understand that. Sometimes the best move benefits everyone. But Bayındır isn't the only goalkeeper on the move. Another young name is also attracting attention: Radek Vitek. The talented goalkeeper is closing in on a loan switch to Middlesbrough. Again, this isn't just about moving players out, it's about development. United believe consistent first-team football will accelerate his progress far more than staying on the bench. Notice the pattern? Carrick isn't just thinking about this season, he's thinking 2, 3, even 4 years ahead. Every decision has a long-term purpose. Every transfer has to fit the bigger picture. That's something supporters have been asking for over the last few years. And so far, that's exactly what they're seeing. But then another update landed, and it could be one of the most important of the week. Fabrizio Romano gave his famous "Here we go." Whenever those 3 words appear, football fans stop scrolling, because it usually means one thing: the deal is done. For Manchester United, that's another piece falling into place as Carrick continues reshaping his squad before the new campaign begins. And here's why that matters. Every completed deal speeds up the next one. One player arrives, another leaves. The wage bill changes, squad places open up, negotiations become easier. It's like a domino effect. One move triggers another, then suddenly, the final weeks of the transfer window become absolute chaos, and United could be right in the middle of it. Which brings us back to the biggest question. Are Manchester United actually finished spending? Now here's where this transfer window becomes even more interesting, because every deal we've talked about isn't happening in isolation. They're all connected. Think about it. If Zirkzee leaves, United free up space in the attacking unit. If Bayındır completes his move, another squad place opens. If more fringe players leave before the deadline, Carrick suddenly has both the budget and flexibility to make one more important signing. And don't underestimate that. Sometimes the biggest transfer of the summer happens after everyone thinks the club is finished. Carrick has a profile in mind. He isn't just asking for big names, he's asking for players who fit his football, players who press, players who work without the ball, players who stay disciplined, and players who are hungry to prove themselves. Talent alone isn't enough anymore. The mentality has to match. And that's exactly why this Rashford situation is so fascinating. Because staying at Manchester United doesn't automatically mean starting every week. Far from it. If Rashford stays, he'll have to earn his place. Every training session matters. Every pre-season performance matters. Every minute on the pitch matters. There will be no guarantees. Carrick has reportedly made it clear that reputations won't decide the team. Performances will. That's exactly what many supporters have been asking for. No favourites, no automatic starters, just competition, real competition. Now imagine what that does to the dressing room. Players can't relax. Young talents know opportunities are there. Experienced players know they have to perform. Competition pushes standards higher, and higher standards usually lead to better football. That's the environment Carrick appears determined to build. But let's not forget something else. Pre-season isn't just about fitness, it's about sending messages. Every player is trying to tell the manager one thing: pick me. Some will impress, some won't. And sometimes, one outstanding pre-season performance completely changes a player's future. Could that be Rashford? It's possible. Could it be another young player nobody is talking about yet? Absolutely. That's why these upcoming matches matter far more than people think. Now let's talk about the fans, because their reactions today have been fascinating. When Romano suggested Rashford is now more likely to stay, social media exploded. Some supporters celebrated. They believe a fresh start under Carrick could bring back the Rashford who scored goals for fun. Others weren't convinced. They argued that keeping him could slow down the rebuild. It's a debate with no easy answer. And honestly, that's what makes football so addictive. Everyone sees the same news, but everyone reaches a different conclusion. The same applies to Lewis Hall. Many fans would love to see him at Old Trafford. Others simply can't justify spending around £60 million on a left-back when there are still other priorities. Again, different opinions. One club, one badge, but completely different visions of what success looks like. And that's exactly why every transfer update sparks another debate. Because every signing shapes the future of Manchester United. Every decision carries pressure. Every decision will be judged. Not today, but over the next few seasons. So as things stand, the picture is becoming clearer. Rashford is currently expected to stay. Juventus continue pushing for Zirkzee. Lewis Hall remains a target, but Newcastle aren't making negotiations easy. Outgoing deals are progressing, and Carrick continues building a squad that reflects his own identity. But don't get too comfortable, because in football, the biggest headline usually arrives when nobody sees it coming. And here's the biggest takeaway from everything we've discussed today. Manchester United aren't trying to win the transfer window. They're trying to build a team that can compete for years. There's a huge difference. For too long, supporters watch the club chase big names, react late in negotiations, and spend massive money without a clear direction. This summer feels different. Not perfect, but different. Every move appears to fit a plan. Every decision seems connected. And that's exactly what gives many supporters hope heading into the new season. For Marcus Rashford, this could be the biggest season of his career. If he stays, he has the chance to silence every critic. But if he doesn't deliver, the questions will only get louder. The pressure couldn't be any higher. The same applies across the squad. Every player knows Carrick is watching. Not just the goals, not just the assists, everything. The intensity in training, the attitude, the work rate, the commitment. That's how places in this team will be earned, not by reputation, by performance. And that's exactly the culture many fans have been asking to see return at Old Trafford. As for Joshua Zirkzee, the next few days could decide everything. Juventus are still pushing, talks remain active, and until an agreement is officially signed, this story isn't going away. One breakthrough in negotiations and the entire situation changes. The same goes for Lewis Hall. Newcastle's stance is clear today, but transfer windows have a habit of producing surprises when deadlines get closer. A phone call, a new offer, a player change of heart. Sometimes that's all it takes. And don't forget, Manchester United may not even be finished looking at the market. If the right opportunity appears, if another outgoing deal is completed, don't be surprised if one more unexpected name suddenly enters the conversation. That's how quickly football moves. 1 minute the window feels quiet, the next, everyone is refreshing their phones, waiting for the famous words, "Here we go." So as we leave today's updates, here's where everything stands. Marcus Rashford is currently more likely to remain at Manchester United than leave. Joshua Zirkzee's future is still being negotiated, with Juventus pushing to reach an agreement. Lewis Hall remains a player United admire, although Newcastle continue to stand firm over their valuation. More departures are expected before the deadline, and Michael Carrick continues shaping the squad in his own image, one decision at a time. This isn't the end of Manchester United's transfer story. It feels like we're just entering the most important chapter. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think Marcus Rashford should stay and fight for his place? Would you spend £60 million on Lewis Hall? And do you think letting Joshua Zirkzee join Juventus is the right decision? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's update, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to RedBreak and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Manchester United news as it happens. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.